Hey everyone, it's Desiree, and yes, it is that time again for another simplicity video. Need to clean my head out, and by doing these cards, it really does that for me. You know, let's get back to basics. Yes, there are wonderful products out there for us, but to make beautiful cards, you just simply need to have pattern paper, your imagination, and maybe a few sentiment stamp sets. Absolutely. So let's get started, and stay till the end because I have a couple announcements, things that are available as well. So yep, I'm going to keep you there, or just scroll there because I'm sure that's what you'll do anyway. All right. For the pattern paper pad, I am focusing on Moda Scrap. This one is called Shades of Love, but don't let that name fool you just because it says love. You know, sometimes when we think that, we think wedding, we think Valentine's Day, but no, these images are just beautiful. And I love their watercolor. I call them the watercolor series, but they're pads that come out with watercolor effects. They're just gorgeous. Comes with 12 sheets. They are one-sided, so we don't have to fussy about, oh my goodness, which side do I use? And they are 6 by 6. I'm not sure if I'm going to pull in any other cardstock as well from my stash. Again, just trying to focus on this. Again, using up what we have. This paper pad has 2 that can be just immediately put on to a 7 by 7 card base. And then these are some watercolored backgrounds. Very dainty, very soft, but boy, they do have an impact. That's what I love about these backgrounds. Even though bold color, it's still just soft and will create a beautiful backdrop for any sentiment that we have. And then these beautiful watercolor panels are in this as well. So this is what I'm going to be using. All right, so let's see how many cards we make, and let's take it from there. All right, let's get started. So as always, we are going to start cutting. That's what we do first. One of the things that I love about Moda Scraps when it comes to their paper packs is the cover. It is a perfect element to put on your cards. It's just strips of all of the cardstock, and there's shading on there. So don't forget about your covers. You can cut those. Don't think that when you have a 6 by 6 piece of paper and it's got that design and it takes up that whole space of 6 by 6 inches, doesn't mean you can't cut it in different ways to create a focal point that's already there for you. Just because it's a circle doesn't mean you can't cut it. Just because it's an oval doesn't mean you can't cut it. So, you know, try to look beyond those pieces of paper. A lot of people kind of set them off to the side because they're like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm not going to make a 6 by 6 card or a 7 by 7 card. You can, by all means, you can frame those, hang those up on your wall because they are pretty, but you can cut into them to give another look to that image. Here, I'm just cutting strips. Now, I am not measuring this. I am just cutting strips, cutting different widths, cutting what I have, because usually when I do this, I'm taking these pieces of pattern paper, and then if I do pull in some solid cardstock, I'm literally gluing them onto that and then cutting around it. So I'm creating my 1/8 of an inch or my 1/4 of an inch border once they're going down. So I am not measuring these pieces, and I know I get a lot of questions. Can you tell me the dimensions? And you know, and I feel really bad, and I know I'm probably hated out there because I really don't. However, I believe I have solved that problem. So stay tuned till the end. So again, we are just cutting. Now, the time that it took me to cut all of these papers down, and you can see as I'm cutting them down, I'm matching them up. I'm liking, okay, I want this strip with this one, and I'm liking this pattern paper with this, and I'm liking this with this, and liking this with this. What's great with this paper pad, or I'll say paper pack because it's not in a pad form, there's not a lot of pieces. There's 12 pieces in there, which is plenty because I get 10 cards from this pack, and I still had paper left over to make probably a couple more, maybe even more, depending upon how I used it. But there's a mixture. There's backgrounds and there's prints. So you really don't have to add any solid cardstock. Now, I don't know if you would have gotten the full 10 that I got if you don't add the solid cardstock, but you would definitely get minimum of 5 cards. I love doing this or something when it comes to this, just using the cardstock, because first of all, it's doing the work for you. But these sets that you create from a paper pad or a pack are great gifts. They are just great items to put together. All right, so let's get started putting our cards together. So I have this long strip, and what I also did for this was I made different size cards, and I'm going to call them note cards because I don't put sentiments on them. So you're going to see the standard A2 size, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. See, now that measurement I know. I only know my card bases. I also made card sizes 4 by 4. So like little tiny note cards. And I also did a 3 1/2 inch by 5 1/2 inch card base. Again, we can make our card bases any way that we want or any size that we want. So have fun with that. Again, when I do this, I'm creating note cards. I do like to take a card that doesn't have a sentiment on it, and it can be anything that I want it to be. It can go into any type of congratulations. It can go into a birthday. It can be for anniversary. It can be for a retirement. It can be for sympathy. And it becomes what it is when I put that note inside. You can see that some of the, when it comes to those background papers, I did cut those down. So I'm layering them, and they look just as well with the solid cardstock. I'm also taking these images, these items that I've cut, the strips or the squares or the rectangles, and I am taking them straight onto the card base. So I'm not putting these on a what I call a design panel. You can, because then if you wanted to add dimension, you could. Even just having that card base, that card design base, you are going to add dimension. You're going to add that texture, but you don't have to. You can go directly to the card base to put your designs down. Again, we're using simple shapes, our basic shapes, the square and the rectangle, and what I'm also going to call the strip, because we get into thinner strips as well. So again, it can be what you want it to be. Now, again, if you're just using your paper and you want circles, use a lid to a jar, use a roll from a paper towel, use a glass. Look at things that are in your house to give you those shapes if you don't have that die cutting machine and the nested dies. One of the things that, the simplicity really focuses on, or I want this series to focus on, is the paper. We forget about the paper. We forget what our pattern papers can really do for us, whether we're stamping an image or just not. But seeing just paper being used is very few and far between. I love watching those. When I see one pop up and somebody's done that, oh, I'm there. Yes. Because just to see all of the different things that they're doing, what are they incorporating? So again, very simple. Paper, scissors, glue. Now I do pull in a paper trimmer because for me that is quicker. ruler and a pencil is just fine, if that's what you use. So you can see after I cut my pieces, I glue them down onto the solid, and then I just match up those borders. It's okay if it's not completely perfect. You know, these are still handmade cards. Remember, handmade is defined by me. This is how I define handmade. You are taking something and turning it into something else. It's handmade. And that's awesome. And again, it all depends on, you know, what you're using and what you want to do. Now you can see with this one, I'm just layering and I'm layering and I'm layering. So lots of dimension are going on with that. And I'm not using foam squares. I'm not using foam tape. I'm just simply using my liquid adhesive to adhere all of these panels down. I do like to use the solid cardstock so that it can frame the pattern paper. Do you need that? No, you do not. Again, a paper pad or pack is designed for everything to go together. So you would match your small with your large images, or your small with your small. I just like to have that little frame sometimes with that solid cardstock or something that looks solid, because it kind of pulls it out just a little bit. So here I am, I'm going into the 4x4 cards. I love 4x4 cards. And I do have a lot of these card bases because what I do when it comes to, when I make a slim line, it's 3.5 by 8.5. So I'm cutting off a 4-inch side from an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So from that one sheet, I'm getting 2 card bases. I'm getting a 4x4 that I cut down to that, and then I'm getting my slimline card. Now, you saw I had made a mistake. So I had put glue down. I didn't want glue to go down yet. Wanted to play around with it. So I just stuck it right onto a piece of plain copy paper, very thin, and then just cut around it. And then I'm still able to place it where I needed to place that. So setting our pieces in place, now you can see that I didn't use a solid cardstock behind the previous 2, but I did for the strip that came across both of them. And you can see they stand out just fine. Yes, they're different colors, so they're going to stand out, but your eye is still being attracted to each of those. Just making a little bit of a wider strip to go across this. And then we're going to set that down just below. And then we're going to take our panel with no frame around it right into that, or right onto that card. So here's one of those panels that it was a full circle that took up that 6x6 piece of paper. Again, kind of quartered it, but I also wanted to make sure that it was centered going up the left-hand side from the right. Again, everyone, they would never know that that was part of another full circle. So again, look at those pieces because they can be cut up into cubes or blocks or anything like that. Here are the 3.5 by 5.5 inch card bases that I'm doing here. And again, there's another one of those pieces of, this was the circle, I'm sorry. So I just literally cut that right in half. And that's kind of what gave me, well, that is what gave me the idea to make a 3.5 by 5.5 inch base. Because that small strip right there, I didn't want to lose anything. I didn't want to put anything on top of it. I didn't want to put anything underneath it. So that that image right there, when I cut it, is what said, okay, you know what? Let's make that size of a card base. Because when I'm cutting, I'm just cutting. I'm not thinking these are going to be standard cards. These are going to be 4x4 cards. That's not coming into my mind yet. When I look at all the pieces that I cut, that's how I'm coming up with, you know what, this is going to be this card base, this is going to go on this card base, and this is going to go on this card base. It's a very freeing process. I'm just using these large strips. I'm just setting them just so that I can create a somewhat of a frame for the panel from the front. Again, look at those front panels or those front covers. Pieces can be cut from that, and that would create a beautiful panel. This is already taking care of the shading. It's taking care of the lines. And again, no one's going to know that you did not put that together, that it was already done for you. So here are the cards that we made. So again, we made the 3.5 by 5.5 card bases. We did the 4 by 4s, and we did the standard A2 size card, which is 4.25 by 5.5. So we did 10 cards. Now, what I like to do is I like to grab a sentiment pack. If you don't have to, and I just stamp away sentiments. What I stamped them on was the cardstock, was the paper from the paper pack. So they have this great little tiny background, and I can add those sentiments as I needed to. All right, so now let's hear the announcement that I have. Yay! Hey everyone, so for my special announcement. So we just got done watching another episode in the Simplicity series. Remember, we just need cards. Cardstock, adhesive, scissors, or paper trimmer so that we can still make our beautiful cards. So what I've put together for you and what is now available, and I will have it linked down below to my website, is what I've done is with all the cards, and we're going to do this going forward. So all the cards that I make, whenever I do a Simplicity series, I try to do one a month or one every other month. So all of those cards that I make, there are going to be card sketches available. And this is what they will look like. So they will come on each sheet will be their own card sketch. And what I will have listed here is the card base that I used in the dimensions that I used it. So it will be in inches. Hopefully you can see that because when I come up closer, it kind of... And then if you just follow the order in which these are, that is how these blocks are placed. So the pink would be first. We'll cut that 3.5 by 3.5 inches. We will place that down onto our 4-inch by 4-inch card base. Then we will cut another piece of cardstock. In this case, it's going to be the green or the gray. That's there. That's representative. That's going to be cut at 1.5 inches by 4 inches. And then our next cut from our cardstock, in this case, it's represented by the light blue. That'll be cut by 1 1/4 to 4 inches. And then our last cut will be the yellow strip, and that's 2 inches by 4 inches. That is how each one of the card sketches will be. Now, when you see my tag here, my emblem there, that just means you can put a focal point there, or something that's already printed on your cardstock, just as I did in this video. So some of the cardstock that I had images, and we used those and worked those into the card design. And same thing, every design or every sketch will have the card base size and then the order in which you can apply. Excuse me. And when you see that, I'll have at the end add an image to the gray panel for your focal point. Now for this video, you won't get a blank page. For this video, I made 10 cards. So this packet will consist of 10 sketch designs that you can create. Now, do you have to follow these dimensions? Absolutely not. Do you have to follow those card bases? Absolutely not. You can have fun and use these as inspiration. Use these as a way to get your ideas going on how you would like your cards to be. And that's what the sole purpose of these sheets are. The other reason why I put these together is because I'm always asked the size. And I have to admit, as I'm putting these cards together, I am not measuring. Nope. I'm just not measuring. I am just cutting. I'm just going with what my eyes look good with and so forth. So to put these together, I'm actually measuring all of those pieces to do that. With this download, you will get a welcome, and I'll also have the video link in here as well. So this copy will be linked back to the video that has aired on the YouTube channel. You'll also have a download and print instructions. All right, so this will just tell you, what you're supposed to do, how you can read the sketches, and so forth. So these will now be available, and they'll continue to grow. So this is the first 10 within my website. And again, you'll just go there. These will be $1.75 to download. If you want, you don't have to. For my Patreons, over on my Patreon site, they actually will be receiving this for free, and all my Patreons will be able to receive this copy. So if you're interested in going over there, and you'll always receive any download that is created, by all means, you can head that over and just check it out. And if you have any questions, just let me know. My Patreon levels start at $2 a month. So again, everything will be linked down below, and you can check that out. Guys, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you enjoy these. I hope you'll give them the try. But again, any questions, make sure you leave those down below, and I'll make sure I get back to you as soon as I can. Enjoy your day, smile, and continue to stay safe. But remember, always be creative. Till next time, guys. Take care.